During the mid to late 80s, overhead running guns were a dime a dozen. From Commando to Ikari Warriors, this genre was designed to suck quarters out of the pockets of overzealous arcade patrons eager to save the world from some nefarious militant or terrorist organization. These games were so prevalent during this time period, it required some unique mechanics to make one stand out from the other. Heavy Barrel was one of them, released in arcades by Data East in 1987. The Heavy Barrel is a weapon of mass destruction that lays waste to anything that woefully happens to cross its path. This devastating cannon must be assembled by collecting all 6 pieces of it, which are scattered throughout the game hidden in locked boxes. The Heavy Barrel can then unleash its fury for a limited amount of time. There you go, no other running gun did anything like this at the time. As what was a common practice in the early days of console video games, Data East brought the arcade hit to our living rooms for the Nintendo Entertainment System in 1990. As with its arcade counterpart, the NES version allows for 1-player or 2-player simultaneous play, and resembles the original as much as it possibly could in the form of a scaled-down 8-bit game. The visuals are rudimentary at best, but it gets the job done. The controls are fairly decent for the most part, but the arcade version employed a turn knob on the joystick, allowing for your player to be rotated in 8 different directions, while simultaneously allowing your soldier to freely roam the landscape a la Ikari Warriors. While you can strafe in the coin-op game, this couldn't be replicated in the NES version, but Data East did focus on allowing you to point your soldier in 8 different directions, which has its advantages and disadvantages. Sometimes when needing to turn on a dime, the response feels a bit delayed as your player may have to go through a couple of animation frames before settling on your desired position, which translates into some frustrating deaths. You eventually learn to adapt to this, but the occasional horseshit death is inevitable, and boy, is there some cheap bullshit in this one. You'll see later on. Enemy soldiers and vehicles come at you from all directions, but luckily not too many sprites can be on screen at once, unlike the arcade original. This, in my opinion, makes Heavy Barrel much more forgiving than some of its contemporaries, not to mention the bullets are slow enough to easily dodge as if you were Neo from the Matrix. Locked boxes also litter the battlefield and are your source for special weapons and items. The goodies within can only be retrieved by unlocking them with keys, which are surrendered by soldiers donning red uniforms. A maximum of 4 keys can be carried at a time. Now, the trick to Heavy Barrel is knowing which items are locked where, as they are always located in the same boxes, so memorization plays a big role in this one. However, the item icons are all the same regardless if it's a new weapon, shield, etc., which oftentimes replaces your firearm or grenade with one you'd rather not use. The Flamethrower is extremely powerful and rips right through bosses with ease versus the pellet gun, so if you accidentally pick that one up right before a boss battle, well. These are the 2 guns you'll be using to mow down baddies, each with limited ammo of 90 rounds on top of your default weapon. The instruction manual claims that there is also a laser in the game, but to my knowledge, this is simply not true. I did find a laser once in the arcade version on the final stage, but as far as I can tell, it doesn't exist in the NES version. Have you found the laser before? Unfortunately, the pieces of the Heavy Barrel aren't distinguishable from the other pickups either, so you'll need to memorize which lockers they're stored in. Collect all 6 pieces.
That's terrible.
And you're armed with deadly lipstick that sends anything living to a fictional resting place for all of eternity, except for when the Heavy Barrel's blast goes right through enemies. Now that's some bullshit. However, the titular weapon stays with you even if you die, as it has unlimited ammo for roughly 45 seconds. The manual says the time limit is 99 seconds, but this is yet again another blatant lie. Yeah, I timed it. Using the game's several overpowered items is key in getting through the war unscathed. Your wimpy default grenades are mere love taps compared to the exploding red ones, which take out bosses within seconds and sends exploding shrapnel in all directions to take out hordes of bad guys. Unfortunately, your shrapnel grenades, as well as the enemies, redundantly look identical to the explosions emitted from some of the vehicles and weapons you destroy. Who thought that was a good idea? What really sucks is when you replace the red grenades with the useless smoke bomb or mace by mistake. Like I mentioned before, all of the pickups look exactly the same. But the music is pretty good, despite only having 2 main themes that alternate between levels, which unfortunately was a common practice with Data East back in the day. I'm looking at you, bad dudes.
I'm bad.
Yeah, you are. There is a boss theme as well, and the tunes change up for the final stage, which shouldn't take too long to reach, as I find this game to be a bit on the easy side. You only have 3 continues, but you get to restart right from where you last perished, so it is a bit forgiving in that regard. Despite my gripes with this game, Heavy Barrel is actually pretty fun. After playing it a few times and remembering where to locate the weapons you desire and where the many 1-ups are hidden, plowing through this one should be a piece of cake, and you'll be seeing its standard boring static data east ending screen in no time. It can still be found for relatively cheap, so I say snag it before it goes up in price anymore, cause for under 15 bucks, I say it's totally worth it.